To begin a conversation about Christianity from the 1st century would be identical to starting watching the Game of Thrones from the 2nd season. It is important to understand the environment that nurtured ideas that were later found in the teachings of the Jesus movement. That is, we need to know the history of Jews because Christianity came out of Judaism. Traditionally, most scholars would point out the importance of understanding some key historical or chronological milestones. While some of these chronological events may be a matter of debate in the modern scholarship, I still would like to mention them. Only after taking into consideration all these events and historical context can we begin our journey into the history of Christianity. This will help us understand why and how the Jesus movement arose in the 1st century and why it made sense for those people in 1st century Palestine to follow a leader like Jesus of Nazareth. In this review, I rely mainly on chronology provided by Paula Fredrickson in her work Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews. Around the year 1000 BCE, King David consolidates cult in Jerusalem, and his son Solomon builds the first temple. In 920, Solomon dies, and the kingdom divides into North Israel and South Judah. Please consider that some scholars would question that the kingdom was originally unified, and they would question even the historical existence of King David. The next important milestone is the year 722, when Assyria completes the conquest of the northern kingdom of Israel and deports its population. This is the period of the prophet Isaiah. But please remember that the book of Isaiah was written by several authors and with a big time difference. In 586, Babylon conquers Jerusalem, or the southern kingdom. The Babylonians destroy the temple and deport the population. This is the period of prophet Jeremiah and Ezekiel. In 532, Persia conquers Babylon. King Cyrus permits exiles to return and rebuild the temple in Jerusalem. This is the period of the Second Temple. In 332, Alexander the Great conquers Judea. After his death in 323, Ptolemies in Egypt and Seleucids in Syria ruled Judea by turns for the next 150 years. And what does it tell us? That there was a drastic influence of Hellenistic culture on Judea. Just think for a second how the British influenced the culture of India through their language, architecture, and so on. But of course, there was strong opposition. In 167, Seleucid ruler Antiochus Epiphanes introduces pagan rites in Jerusalem temple, triggering the Maccabean revolt. This is the period of prophet Daniel. As a result, in 141, victorious priestly Hasmonean family was established as ruling dynasty of already independent Jewish kingdom. During this period, the Dead Sea Scrolls community took origins. Some call them Essenes or Qumran community. In 63 BCE, the Roman general Pompey conquers Jerusalem and penetrates the temple. Hasmoneans now rule as client kings of Rome. And it is very important for us to understand the political situation of Israel after year 63. Why did the Romans invade and conquer Jerusalem? Who were the Hasmoneans? And what did this mean for the Jews in ethnic sense? In 37 BCE, Herod the Great becomes sole ruler of Israel. But what did this mean for the Jews that didn't consider Herod to be one of them? He was a fan of Greek culture. His rule was a period of incredible construction and imitation of Hellenism. It was a period of strong political tension and revolts. Although Herod expanded the Second Temple, making it one of the most magnificent buildings of his time, it is important to understand the motivation behind it and why he wasn't allowed to enter the marvelous temple. All this must be taken into consideration. In 4 BCE, according to the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus is born. Herod dies and his kingdom splits between his three sons, Archelaus, Judea and Samaria, Antipas, Galilee and Perea, and Philip, Transjordan. Now we are moving to the Common Era. In 6 CE, Emperor Augustus deposes Archelaus. Judea becomes a second great province under the Roman prefect, or colonial governor, subordinate in turn to the provincial legate of Syria. It will be good to think of the tension between Jerusalem and Caesarea Maritima that eventually became the capital of the Roman province of Judea. And during this period, under the leadership of Judas the Galilean, there was a revolt against the Roman administration, allegedly because of the census for tax purposes. As you may see, Romans began to rule Judea directly, and eventually it caused a revolt. And according to Luke, Jesus was born exactly in this year, although according to the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus was born 10 years earlier. In 26, the well-known Pontius Pilate appointed prefect of Judea and serves here until the year 36. And here it's important for us to understand how the Sanhedrin functioned in Jerusalem and how political power was distributed during the time of Jesus and after his crucifixion. Sanhedrin also can be called a local parliament. Overall, if we skip the historical context, it's hard to understand some presumed teachings and actions of Jesus described in the Gospels. Of course, based on the canonical Gospels, we can see that they were written by people of different backgrounds who lived in distinct geographical locations and wrote them for specific groups of people. I'll discuss this topic in one of my future videos. I'll explain what the difference between the 4 canonical Gospels is. So in general, it's important to know how the Jews were dispersed in different lands, and not only in the Roman Empire. What role Jerusalem and the Temple played in the life of Jews outside of Jerusalem. What were the ideological and theological differences between Sadducees and Pharisees? Who had the power, and how it changed after destruction of the Temple in 70 CE? Also, who were those radical rebellious movements such as Zealots, or ascetic revivalist movements such as the Essenes? Did they possibly have an influence on the ideas and teaching of John the Baptist, for example, who, by the way, according to some scholars, was Jesus' spiritual teacher and had a strong influence on his ideas? Only after knowing this historical background it is possible to begin our journey or the quest in understanding why and how the Jesus' movement took place in the 1st century Palestine. At this stage, it's not Christianity yet, but a small spiritual movement within Judaism. It mainly consists of Jews that follow Jewish law and that are concerned mostly with internal business of Israel. Today there is a debate among scholars whether Jesus considered himself the founder of a new religion. According to Marcus Borg and Dale Martin, most historical Jesus scholars agree that Jesus didn't have intention to create a new global religion. After all, many early Christians hardly saw themselves outside of Judaism. Jesus was a Jew, his disciples and followers were Jews. In Judea itself and among the Jewish diaspora, Christianity was a sect of Judaism. Daniel Boyarin, in his work Borderline Lines, The Partition of Judeo-Christianity, claims that Judaism is not the mother of Christianity, they are twins joined at the hip. His main argument is that the border between Christianity and Judaism did not exist at least in the first 2 centuries, and later it was imposed from top down. He writes, "I shall propose in this book that just as border between Mexico and the United States is a border that was imposed by strong people on weaker people, so too is the border between Christianity and Judaism." So, before discussing the history of Christianity, we must understand how deeply it's been related to Judaism. If you want to know more details, please watch this video on my channel, the link is in the description. Here I share how Apostle Paul and later Rome helped to turn Jesus' movement from a Jewish spiritual movement into a global multicultural religion. Today Christianity is the most diverse and globally dispersed religion on the planet. And in the next video, I'll discuss how Christianity spread throughout the world and how the map of Christianity has changed over 2000 years. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel and please click that bell icon to be notified of new videos. In the description you may find a list of some academic literature on the topic of Christian history. My friends, thank you for watching till the end. Please support my channel if you can, watch my other videos. I wish you peace and health wherever you are.